26 troops from the Aboriginal training school took part in a spectacular 3,000-metre jump, just one of a number of activities marking Raymond Terrace's promotional week. They plummeted a full 45 seconds before releasing their parachutes for the last 1,000 metres. And for those who think 3,000 metres is quite a drop, the 26 men taking part in today's display have already made some 16,000 similar jumps between them. The warm spring weather also brought many people to a specialty arcade held in Newcastle's Cathedral Hall. Today's function is the first in conjunction with the Cathedral's 80th anniversary celebrations to be held next month. 10 specialty shops were invited to set up a stall, and these will remain open until 8 tonight.
With so many Australian productions being held in abeyance because of uncertainty over taxation laws, Lonely Hearts, starring Wendy Hughes and Norman Kay, is one of few fresh local productions around at the moment. And it's a very good, funny sort of love story, according to Mr. Murray and actor John Finlayson.
It's a love story, but the characters have idiosyncrasies. They're identifiable. We can recognise these characters as ourselves in some ways, and it's because of our quirks that although they're attracted to each other, they prevent them coming together and the path of love running smoothly.
Well, most films though nowadays are love stories, aren't they?
Yes, but with heroes,
What's
with
the
huge
difference
heroes and car chases and bullets. This is
Yes.
about real people, and a film that stays with you and lingers, to film to think about, which is funny and real, I believe.
A family film?
Certainly.
We're about to see a little piece of it. Can you just describe briefly what we are going to see here in this clip?
Yes, well, Patricia, acted by Wendy Hughes, who's nominated for Best Actress, is talking to her father about George, the theatre director.
Yes, I have, Daddy. I've always been interested in the theatre.
You don't know the first thing about it.
I do know the first thing about it. Well, as a matter of fact, the director, he thinks I'm very good.
What would he know about it?
Well, he knows a lot about it. He's the director.
Are you sure it's a good idea?
Listen, Daddy, please.
Patricia, I don't think you ought to go.
I'm going to do it.
The film has been nominated for 5 awards. How hopeful are you that it will pull them off?
Extremely.
Why?
Because there are some fine performances, fine direction and fine writing, and it's an excellent film, and those are the 5 categories in which it's nominated, John, right?
Yes, and it's unusual. It's unlike recent Australian films. Paul Cox, the director, who conceived of Lonely Hearts, came together with John Clark, a very witty and perceptive writer.
Fred Dagg.
And it's both sensitive and amusing.
Turned out in their hundreds today to watch the colourful street procession organised as a part of the Twin Rivers Festival. There was something to delight everyone. For motoring enthusiasts, there were beautifully restored cars entered in the procession by the Newcastle District Vintage Car Club. The RAF base at Williamtown made sure they too were a part of the celebrations. And in another reminder of summer approaching, the Madarri Bushfire Brigade had their open float with popular character Smokey on board. Meanwhile, Maitland was celebrating its own festival at the Church Street Colonial Area. More than 60 stalls have been erected by local church and school groups, selling all the types of goodies that come to expected fairs. Opening the celebrations with the Prince and Princess of Maitland, Linda Harwood and Steve Brosnan.
I just hope
who were both
everybody has a
officially
good
crowned
time
at a
this
ball
afternoon.
held last night
I think
to mark the start of 2 weeks of festivities in the Maitland area.
Well, I'm the national coach, Mike, with the LTAA. It was also thought that it'd be a good idea if I also took the head coaching job at the Institute of Sport, so that we didn't have another faction in Australia fighting against.
There's a lot of people that obviously have heard about the Institute of Sport, but there's also a lot of people that don't totally understand the concept of it.
Well, it's a semi-government organisation, and it's mainly funded by the government now, but it's hoped that private sponsorship will make it self-sufficient. There's 8 sports there at the moment, hockey to come in next year, and tennis is one of them. We have 16 tennis players, 8 boys and 8 girls.
How did those 16 people come to be selected to go to the Institute?
Well, they apply, and applications are available now, and it's advertised in newspapers and the tennis magazines, and myself and the other Australian selectors, we go through them and we're aiming at younger kids now, and the thing that we're really looking at in Australian tennis and junior players is their attitude, and that's the most important in a situation like Canberra.
Obviously, it's only been going a very, very short time. Have you seen a dramatic improvement in the children since they've been there?
Yes, I'm very happy with it. It's been going less than 2 years, and we're heading towards what we want for Australian tennis in the future, and we're making significant gains in getting that each year. We'll have sports science, bigger knowledge coming into tennis in the next few years, and we're getting 4 indoor courts down there coming in January, and so the program's shaping well.
Who are some of the young kids that are going through there now that could rate big prospects in the future?
Well, I think Anne Minter is still a very good prospect, though I'm trying to convince her she is. And Wally Masseur has had very good results this year, won the Dunlop Masters in Japan, $35,000 tournament. Simon Newell's shown great improvement there this year. He's come through Tony Roach and John Newcomb's Customs Credit Scheme, and he was runner-up in the US Junior Grass Court Championships. Most of the kids have had pretty good results. Jamie Harty, young Kim Staunton here is a player of the future. She's at the Institute. So I'm quite happy with the results, but we're still looking for better and better attitude all the time.
Ray, we see in the press a lot these days of walk-offs, of a lot of players blowing their cool, and you mentioned attitude before. How much notice or how impressionable are the young kids coming through on today's scene?
Well, that's the shame about it all. It's just like when we were playing, you take notice of what the great players do, and the kids do take notice. But I try to explain it, that there's very few of those, and I think Ilie Nastase spoiled a brilliant career. I think he could have done so much better without his antics. I think McEnroe happens to be that peculiar temperament that it works for him. I don't think over the years you'll find many others, so what we're aiming for is the best chance to make a great tennis player, and it's not by carrying on like that. You give too much away to your opponent.
We've seen during this last week here the Berry Fruit Juice Company have held a $10,000 women's satellite circuit in Newcastle. Will Newcastle be becoming more involved, or how do they get more involved in junior development throughout Australia?
Yeah, well, I hope they will, Mike, because we're always looking for venues like this, and cooperation like we're getting here is terrific to run these tournaments, which is so important to us developing players again. And Richard Howes, a friend of mine, we're trying to organise a series of tournaments where the Custom Credit, New South Wales Building Society squad, Johnson Wax and AIS all come together over a weekend in March, and I'm hoping that we can get some cooperation to run the tournament here, which I'm pretty confident we will. We're always looking for venues and hard-working committees that are going to help us out, and I hope Newcastle becomes more and more, increasingly more involved.
Well, Ray, I know all the tennis followers and all sport.
I believe so. I think it started in the early 70s when Billie Jean, more or less went to Philip Morris and got her own sponsor, and they created the Virginia Slim Circuit, and that was the start of us breaking away from the men's tour, and things have just snowballed from there. So basically women's tennis is completely independent of men's tennis, and I believe we have equal opportunity now throughout the world.
I was talking to Carol O'Sullivan, who is tournament director here for the Berry Fruit Juice Open, and she said that may be a little bit of a drawback at times, that the two circuits are so segregated.
Yes, personally I didn't enjoy them. I knew the prize money was there and the publicity, etc. But I used to really look forward, to come together with the men at Wimbledon and the US Open and also the Australian Open. I just prefer to have, men around the courts rather than just be at all women's events because, I feel socially it's very tough on the girls.
And of course that stigma does come in, that we've had so much bad publicity about the segregated circuit and certain things happening, and that's obviously not very good for tennis.
It's not really, but I think people just have to realise that that's the way of life, no matter what field it is in.
Helen, the day's curriculum regarding a student at the Institute of Sport.
Well, just basically, they spend half a day at school, and then they come into us for the other half a day. We try to have them on the court somewhere between 3.5 to 4.5 hours per day. After we've done the on-court work, then we spend about an hour daily doing athletics and that sort of work, short, sharp work to quicken them up. And 3 times a week on top of that, they do a weight program. And then as well as that, we have a tremendous backup from the sports science section. We have a sports psychologist who is now working frequently with the players. We have our own doctor on tap there, our own physiotherapist, so if any injuries occur, they go and are treated immediately. And we also have, with the sports scientist, we have individual training programs for each player. So every day they are doing what they individually require.
From what you're saying, Helen, that the mental approach to tennis these days is a very, very important thing.
So much of tennis these days is mental. You have players with the same ability out on the court, but it's the one with the strength and the mentality side that's going to come through. And we find that the sports psychologist is really helping us and can really see what the weaknesses are mentally with each player, and whether he can do something with them remains to be seen. But we're certainly working in that field.
Well, it's certainly pleasing to know that we've got people like yourself and Ray Ruffles and Bob Carmichael. Tennis in Australia is in good hands. Before you go, got to ask you, who's the toughest lady you've ever played?
It would have to be Chris Evert.
Just mentally or consistently?
Both. I've played everyone really, and I've taken sets off Billie Jean and that, but Chris, if you got one game from Chris, you felt you were doing really well.
Helen, from everybody.
It's all in a book just written by Newcastle's professional treasure hunter Mr. Darryl Jones and Australian historian Bluey Garland of Foster. It's the first book of its type to be published in Australia, and already its sales show that gold fever, and perhaps even the original digger spirit, is far from dead.
Well, there just wasn't a book on this subject at all, John, and there was quite a demand, so I set about with Blue Garland and we did it together.
It's been a successful seller. In 3 weeks, 3,000 copies. Why?
Well, I'm very surprised at that, but I think it's probably got something to do with the fact that there is a bit of a downturn perhaps, and people are looking at ways of increasing their income. And so
Darryl, being realistic though, detecting's not as easy as it looks. In fact, it can become quite tedious.
Certainly, that's why we set about to do the book, because there's a lot of secrets and a lot of things to learn, and in the book we've got those shortcuts clearly explained on how to go about metal detecting.
Londoners Tottenham Hotspur maintained a spot near the top of the league despite a 4-0 defeat at the hands of European champions Aston Villa. Spurs started well but were rattled by 2 early goals in the second half. Striker Cowans had 2 in the net, one of them a penalty in as many minutes. Spurs almost got back into the match only to be denied by the crossbar, but Morley soon had made it through. Then Shaw completed the rout with this diving header.
The male cleaners employed by the New South Wales Government are members of the Miscellaneous Workers Union, and they've been banning the cleaning of toilets in public buildings and schools since Monday, but it's today that it's starting to take its effect. Some schools and technical colleges have had to lock up their boys' toilets. Some have already been declared unsafe by the Public Health Department. It's all over a $4.50 cleaning allowance which is paid to the women cleaners, which the men now think they deserve.
In some schools, the toilet blocks which have been cleaned by our members, male members that is, have been closed, locked up, and they're not in use. Others are reaching a stage where it's really untenable for them to continue to be used, and in others there's very little effect because males might only have one or two toilets that they clean in the school, and the rest of them are done by females.
Will the dispute see some schools and public buildings in Newcastle eventually close?
It's something we don't wish to see happen, but the obduracy of the Public Service Board in refusing to deal with us in the matter, which we feel is quite justified, as the female cleaners or female members of our union have received that allowance for since time immemorial, really, and the denial of it to the males has really brought about this hard position that they've adopted.
Ah, yes, it's very proud, Lee. We're very proud of the club. The club's been going 60 years this season, you know, we're performing very well in the carnivals, and this Saturday that you'll probably speak about shortly is we're looking forward to it. It's going to be really great.
I believe you've made a special effort to make this a very big carnival, and they're coming from all over.
Oh yes, they're coming from Sydney. Programs have gone out to everyone in the state, so we're hoping for a big roll-up.
Yeah. What about the club? Let's talk about it in a moment. It's Newcastle's most famous landmark. We're standing near here.
That's correct, yes.
And many a good surfers come through the light blue and white colours.
Oh yes, we go back into the 30s. We've got Ben Gillett, everyone knows Ben. Coming up into the 40s, we've got Bob Newbigin, Eric Carruthers. They were great swimmers.
Well, Bobby Newbigin's regarded as probably the best surfer ever.
Without a doubt. Him and Ben, they were two of the best. Yeah. Without a doubt.
What about in modern times? You've got plenty of members these days?
Yes, we're looking at about 300 members, all up in juniors and seniors, about 150 juveniles, and about 12 cadets where hopefully we can get those up through our ranks, and they'll be there when the whips are cracking.
Terry, you and I can remember the days of surf carnivals in our younger days when thousands and thousands turned up to watch. It seems to have gone off a bit these days.
Well, there's more to do, I suppose, in other areas. In the old days, you know, it was flat out getting a seat on the beach. We hope that we can get the public back to this carnival this Saturday. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a magnificent carnival. It's the biggest test that we've had, and we won't let them down.
It really depends on Keith. Keith's very unpredictable, and he might run off the court, but then again it'll be really a classic match.
Your prediction?
I think Brian should win, but it'll be a close one. I'm really going to look forward to the sidelines.
Now, 1 o'clock, before the men's final, is the ladies' final, Kathy Lamond and Kathy Mantle, and that should be a battle royal.
Yes, Kathy Mantle's pound for pound hits the ball harder than anybody in Australia, and with Kathy Lamond, she runs and retrieves. It'll be a really classic match. Could go either way.
My word, yes, we've got a number of different types of sports that people may not get an opportunity to look at normally.
What are some of the sports that people will see at the stadium tomorrow night?
We've got a lot of gymnasts and of course young Brett Austin coming up from the Central Coast, world champion trampolinist. His dad's bringing up a team of trampolinists. We've got weightlifters. Joe Hensel from Western Suburbs Leagues Club's got a good team together. Bodybuilding people, both guys and girls, and a little bit of indoor tennis exhibition. Some young ladies are doing a bit of dancing for us, and of course you guys are going to play the boosters teams in basketball. It should be a very, very interesting and entertaining evening.
Now, I believe tomorrow night there is an attempt on a world record.
That's right. Young Brett Austin, an incredible young trampoline performer. He's the world double mini tramp. champion, and a young bloke last week apparently set a world record of 9 triple somersaults in a row.
Their dreams have come true, with Robert Stanton, a paraplegic, winning 2 gold medals and 1 silver for freestyle swims, while blind swimmer Carolyn Connors has won 4 gold medals and at the same time broken 2 world records.
Your first overseas competition, and I'm sure you're looking forward to the competition of these new games.
Yes.
Paolo Rossi scored twice for Italy, the first after a brilliant pass from Bonique. The second came after a good 1-2 and great skills by Rossi in the goalmouth. Cologne defeated Glasgow Rangers to win their UEFA Cup second round by 5-0. The second goal to Labaski. What a brilliant goal. The fourth goal nearly as good, this time to Fisher. And the last to Elofs.